Hello, we made it. Who won with the goblins? We're up against the final boss. If we beat the final boss, we go into prizes in this tournament, so everything is on the line. This is the final part. There's a part 1, 2, and 3. You can find them in the description. We're playing Goblin Combo, which means we want to assemble these 3 cards, make infinite mana with them, and then use that infinite mana to somehow make our opponent lose the game. Time to take on the final boss. But first, a word from our sponsor, me. Like and subscribe. This is certainly a starting hand. 1, 2, 3, we combo. If we can't combo due to some disruption, we have a village right to draw some cards. We still do need to draw something that does something with infinite mana. Let's hope our opponent has nothing that disrupts us. So this is an opponent I've played before, and she always plays Grixis Affinity, so I know what I'm up against. On my turn 1, I play a Skirk Prospector because I want to get my combo going as fast as possible. What is bad is I know that her deck runs mainboard removal and mainboard graveyard hate. Like this Nihil Spellbomb turn 1. If you tap and sacrifice it, it exiles a graveyard, and if you play a black when you do it, you also draw a card. And this stops my combo when Putrid Goblin is the graveyard. You can exile it and my combo is stopped. I attack for 1, bring my opponent down to 19, and I start planning how do I combo even though I have to get rid of this Spellbomb first, and it probably evolves using that village rights to draw some cards, so I can play this Putrid Goblin and use it as sacrifice fodder instead of trying to combo next turn. So Grixis Affinity can afford to run Nihil Spellbomb in main board because it also helps the affinity part of the deck, making the spells cheaper. Like this refurbished familiar that's a 2/1 for 1 mana that makes me discard a card when it enters. A very fair card. Luckily I've drawn this colorless land I can discard. I don't really need it. And I have a Arachnus Canarium, which is basically 2 lands in 1 land. So I'm okay on lands for now. I'm pretty sure my opponent runs no counter spells in the main board. So I can just go ahead and cast this Village Rights, paying sacrificing my Putrid Goblin as an additional cost to draw 2. This way I can make up for the land I discarded, and I can also try to find a way to either make use of infinite mana or find another way to double combo, or so to say. I have no cards in my deck that gets rid of Nihil Spellbomb. You know, I could have some sort of artifact removal in main board, but I don't. My Putrid Goblin comes back with a -1/-1 counter after being sacrificed. Now, I can't actually block the flying rat over there because, you know, it has flying and none of my goblins do. So I'm gonna have to just tank some damage for now. But hopefully there's no big follow-ups like Muran Forces. If you've been paying attention, you can see 2 of them in my opponent's hand. My opponent's having a think before playing out her spell for attacking because I am threatening my combo right now. And if I have Unearth or another Putrid Goblin, I can make it past that 1 Nihil Spellbomb. So she has to make a decision. She does attack me for 2, which, you know, that's fine. I don't mind going down to 18. Because my opponent hasn't played a land for turn as she passes. So I'm feeling okay. The pressure is just a 2/1 for now. But each land in the deck is an artifact. So each land is basically sort of 2 lands with the affinity mechanic. I have to figure out this turn how to get rid of the Nihil Spellbomb. First, I'll attack for 3 for good measurement, putting my opponent down to 17, though I doubt I can out-aggro an Affinity deck. It plays Muran Forcer, which is 7 mana 4/4. It gets cheaper for each artifact, so usually it's free. And they also have a card called Reckoner's Bargain, where you sacrifice a creature and then gain life equal to its cost, which would be 7, and then draw 2 cards. So aggroing this deck is probably not the plan. I'm limited on black mana, so I need to get my black mana spent, and I use the Shred Memory to find this makeshift munitions, and then I can sacrifice my Putrid Goblin for red and play the makeshift munition. Having that Putrid Goblin in my graveyard means that the Unearth I've drawn is one of the 2 Putrid Goblins. It will then be exiled by the Nihil Spellbomb, then I can play a second one, and then I can go infinite with a first day of class. My opponent uses the Reckoner's Bargain I just talked about to sacrifice her rat. This gives her 4 life, but more importantly, 2 cards to go look for a land. And she does find it. She puts a tapped Bridge into play, which is an artifact land. It's indestructible and it makes both blue and black. It comes in every color combination and they're very good. And then it's time for another refurbished familiar. Everyone's favorite card And, you know, I actually do like it too. I think it's a cool card, even if I'm on the receiving end of it. And then my opponent passes, holding up 1 red, which should set off alarms in my brain, but I don't really think too much about it for some reason. So I play my first day of class, and then I go find my Introduction to Prophecy from my sideboard, because I have to remember to do that, otherwise it is missed. And then I can use this Unearth to make her use the Spell Bomb. However, she just immediately responds by cracking the Spell Bomb and exiling my graveyard. She's stopping to take a moment to think about what to do. And for some reason, that doesn't register to me at all. In my brain, it's just, yeah, you'll crack that bomb, take the time you need. But the point is that perhaps she should let that come into play, because she has a red mana which could be used as a removal spell on whatever, on the Putrid Goblin when I bring it back. And while it's easy for me in my position to know how to counter my deck right now, for her, it's a lot of questions about what's in my hand and what's in my deck. Furthermore, if she keeps the Nihil Spellbomb alive, she can use it to draw a card later by using a black mana when she cracks it. But she realized she probably has to crack it, because I am likely to have another Putrid Goblin in my hand. She's absolutely right, I do. I confidently play it, and I want to demonstrate my loop. Now, I do know that there could be interaction, but for some reason, I don't predict it. I trigger my first day of class, putting a +1/+1 counter on the Putrid Goblin. Then I sacrifice it to get a red mana, put the trigger for the Persist on the stack. Then it comes back with a -1/-1 counter on it, and then I trigger my first day of class to put a +1/+1 counter on it. And it is in that window she uses her Galvanic Blast to kill the Goblin before the +1/+1 counter counts on it. And I didn't actually consider that she had that card right now, and I played right into it. And I should have seen it, because, you know, the amount of time she took to figure out what play to make definitely told me she had 2 different ways to deal with my combo. I'm not in the best spot now, but my opponent did miss a land drop, and I still have my Introduction to Prophecy I can cast to look for something to either draw more cards, or just find the combo pieces I need once more. My opponent plays a 4th land, and she's no longer that far behind on the mana side of things. Then attacks me, bringing me down to 16. Perfect. Here she chooses to keep 3 mana open. She can play the Myr Enforcers, but they would cost mana. They're only reduced by 5 right now. So I just play my Goblin Matron to go look for another Putrid Goblin so I can combo off. But she is mainboarding Metallic Rebuke, which is a counter spell that forces me to pay 3 extra for a spell. And that was very smart of her to not just go all in with the Myr Enforcers and just keep me on the back foot. I then play my land, and now it's gonna be really hard to combo. I can play my 3 mana Preordain to scry 2 and look for something. I put both cards on the bottom, and I'm living the life of the top decker. I attack for 1, bringing my opponent down to 20. I played directly into a counterspell I didn't think existed, and I also played directly into a Galvanic Blast that ended my combos. And now I only have a land in hand, but it's okay. I don't have anything in hand. But it's okay, as long as my opponent doesn't play a bunch of huge creatures. Oh, that's the second Myr Enforcer. I'm under a lot of pressure now, and I need both the first day of class and a Putrid Goblin to go off. At least I already have the makeshift munitions, so I have a way to spend my infinite mana. I drew a Mock War Marshal, which is a pretty good draw right now because it can block for days. But I do have to wait and see what happens. My opponent responds, uses a Terminate, which is destroy target creature, it can't be regenerated, to kill my Skirk Prospector. I sacrifice it to kill one of the flying rats, hopefully buying a little bit of time. The Mock War Marshal makes a bunch of goblins, so I can block out the Myr Enforcers for now. The only good thing happening right now is we're both in top deck mode. My opponent finds a Blood Fountain, which is great right now. It means she can bring back more creatures from the graveyard and play them. It does cost 4 to crack it to get 2 creatures back from the graveyard, but it's a lot of pressure. Then she attacks me with everything. I have to block both of the Myr Enforcers, but I can sacrifice them after blocking to deal 1 damage to the flying rat and 1 damage to her, bringing her down to 90. At least I still have 14 life, so I have a while to go dig for my combo pieces. I just need to top deck very well. For this turn, I don't play anything and pass the turn. My opponent untaps, draws, and does what every good Affinity player does and smacks me for 8, bringing me down to 6. I could have blocked with the Goblin, but it's the same whether I block this turn or next turn, and if I draw a Skirk Prospector, I can sacrifice it for mana. It's better to have a Goblin than to not have a Goblin. However, I end up playing a land and having a Duress in hand, which isn't exactly where I want to be right now. Actually, I don't want to be anywhere near this game anymore right now. I'm not dead on board, but my opponent brings back 2 rats, and this is why I should have kept that land in hand, because the rats can discard my cards. But if I have no card, instead of discarding, my opponent would draw. So if I had kept the land in hand, I could have stopped my opponent from 1 draw. I don't think it matters all that much, but it would have been the correct play. My opponent attacks for 8, this time I have to block, and I sacrifice my Goblin, dealing 1 damage to her, because, you know, it's the correct play. And then I take 4, and I go down to 2 life, and I have basically 1 draw left with no cards in hand after this first Refurbished Familiar discards my Duress. And then this second Refurbished Familiar draws her card. Now these are flyers, so even if I draw a Mock War Marshal, there's no way I can block everything. I sacrifice my land to go find a Swarm, not so much because it matters, but because it's the correct play. I don't think there's any card in my deck I can draw to win now. It would have to be... No, there isn't one. But you know what? Believe in the heart of the cards. Top deck, it's another land, and I concede the game. So that wasn't great. I played directly into a Galvanic Blast that lost me the match, so I couldn't combo. And from the way my opponent spent so much time thinking, I should have seen through it. And then I played directly into a counterspell that was less obvious because I didn't think the Grixis deck here played counterspells main board. So now we have to lock in, win the last 2 matches. And the way we're going to do that is by playing better and being luckier. For sideboarding, I take out my Shred Memories. There's not a lot I want to exile in the graveyard. I take out one of my Dragon Draw spells and I take out a Goblin Slitter. In goes all the casts into fire so I can exile artifacts, even lands. And a Crimson Commodore Fleet Admiral guy. He can give me the Monarchy and then I can draw an extra card in each of my turns if I have a Goblin that keeps attacking every turn. My opponent has a massive sideboard to do, but most notably she takes out all the Krark Clan Shamans, a Toxic Analysis, and some other minor things to bring in, of course, Blue Blast because it takes care of first day of class. Duress is also really good against me, and Fairy Macabre is a free way to remove a Putrid Goblin from my graveyard. I have to mulligan down to 6, but this starting hand seems okay. I have all of my combo pieces again, but even better, this turn I have a Duress. With this I can make sure I know whether my opponent has any way to disrupt my combo, and if she does, I can get rid of it. I start out by playing a Duress. There's an argument for saving it until I want to combo off, but since I have the 1, 2, 3, 4 combo, I just want to get it off my hand as soon as I can. My opponent shows me both Duress to disrupt my combo and Galvanic Blast, which can stop it. I take the Galvanic Blast because the Duress can't take any of the creatures. I'm a little sad to see a Thought Cast because that is card advantage. However, there are no creatures on that hand, so I have a lot of time before I am under any kind of pressure. My opponent chooses to keep the cards revealed because I'm too lazy to write them down. On my next turn, I have another Duress, and my choice is to either take a Duress and keep my combo protected or get rid of that Thought Cast so my opponent has nothing basically in hand. I want to take the Thought Cast because that means I buy as much time as I possibly can before anything even starts threatening me. This does give my opponent the chance to cast this Duress on me, and it's obvious that, you know, she has to take the Makeshift Munition. So now I just have the 2 Goblins that combo. I need something that can do something with infinite mana, and I also still need a first day of class. However, I am under no threat. Since I'm now missing 2 pieces of my combo, I choose for this turn there's no reason to start trying to build up the combo pieces. I can just throw down this Muck Fanatic, and it can help me both as a Skirk Prospector, it can be used for mana, and if I draw the Surgeon, I can use those Goblins to regenerate. Generally, I just want to build up a board right now. In case something comes down that's threatening, I can also block, but most importantly, I I can start pressuring my opponent's life total, even though I doubt that'll be important. My opponent plays a Blood Fountain, creating a Blood Token, and she has a lot of artifacts now, but because we took away the Thought Cast, she can't really use all that artifact count for anything, since she seems to have nothing in hand that actually uses Affinity. I attack with one Goblin, putting my opponent down to 19. My Mark War Marshal died to the Echo and created a second Goblin. That Goblin can't attack because, you know, summoning sick. Then, for my turn, I'll play the Putrid Goblin and my Scourge Prospector. I do have 5 power on board now, and while it's a bunch of tiny creatures, 5 power is a lot actually. My opponent feels the need to crack the Blood Token, which is a really good sign for me. That means she's sticking for something to do, and all the cards in her hand are probably either interaction and or just more lands. My opponent then, it's her turn, she draws a card, and I'm ready to face the music. Myr Enforcer, some 2-1 Rat, but it's another turn of land and pass, which is great for me, but I do wonder what she has. This is typical of a game with 3 duresses in it. We've both used a lot of resources to strip the other person of resources, and suddenly we just don't really have a lot to work with. But right now that's fine for me. I have a bunch of little useless creatures, and right now it's a race to who first draws some sort of card advantage or a big threat, I guess. Now all these tiny goblins do add up to 5 damage a turn, so I have to just pressure the life total, put my opponent down to 14, and she has to be feeling somewhat behind now. Now, I don't know this, but she sideboarded out her Clark Clan Shamans, which means she has no sweepers for all of these goblins right now. And I play another Scourge Prospector. An extra damage is an extra damage, and if I get another 2-2, I can actually kill her in 2 turns. Now, one of the things is also because my deck is a combo deck, and I have a card I keep holding on to, my opponent can't really just use interaction whenever she wants to. She needs to be wary of the fact that I can't just combo. So when I swing for another 6 here, putting my opponent to 8, she's not inclined to start using interaction to lower the damage, because what if it is something that can combo? And that's where I make my mistake. I play a Scourge Prospector and reveal that the last card in my hand is a land. Whereas if I had kept a card in hand for all of this time, I could have faked having the combo, and she would be much more worried. Now she is down to 8, and I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 power on the board. So all I need is 1 extra damage. This pressures my opponent to start using the interaction spells. You can't win if you're at 1. Oh, well, you can, but it's a lot harder. To kill my Putrid Goblin. And that's a great plan, because that's the one I have. One of my combo pieces I only have 1 of. And as soon as it has a minus counter, it's basically useless. It can't combo once it's like this. So even if I draw a First Day of Class now, I can't actually combo. I just have to hope I can pressure enough damage to kill her before she starts playing something scary. Next, she then uses a Terminate, which says destroy target creature, it can't be regenerated, to kill the Putrid Goblin entirely. Now, I would say this might be a mistake, because it makes it able to come back with an Unearth, but since I can just sacrifice it with a Scourge Prospector, it's fine, I guess. Then I play the Surgeon. The Surgeon is really good here, because it keeps all of my Scourge Prospectors alive, but it's also bad here, because I have 3 Scourge Prospectors. It would have been good last turn before all these removal spells were solved, you know, so I could regenerate against the Galvanic Blade, and against the Terminate, right? You can regenerate against Terminate, right? That's a thing you can do. Anyway, I attack for 5. One of my goblins get Hydroblasters, which is safe to counter my First Day of Class. I take her down to 4, and I have 4 power on the board. And she needs some way to answer all this damage now. She finds another Hydroblast, killing another goblin. For some reason, I don't want to regenerate these Scourge Prospectors using the less valuable goblins. But then I attack for 3. My opponent asks, why do you attack with the Surgeon? And, you know, but yeah, it doesn't actually matter. There's nothing coming at me it needs to block, but it does 0 damage. My opponent's down to 1. I play another Scourge Prospector. And I feel like I've got this, unless she can gain a bunch of life and draw a bunch of cards. She does play a Reckoner's Bargain, sacrificing the Blood Fountain, but it only has a cost of 1. She only gains 1 life, but draws 2 cards. And there's nothing there, and I win the second game. Excellent. That was an odd game. Both of our decks didn't really follow the game plan. I got nowhere near comboing, and my opponent didn't draw any creatures, it seems like. All those duresses really made the game odd. But in the end, my game plan can also just work with a bunch of little goblins. Which is why my opponent once again sideboards. All those Clan Shamans that went out, they go back in. She realizes this isn't the version of the Goblin Combo deck that only plays the goblins it needs. This is sort of like a bunch of goblins. So Clan Shaman can probably just wipe my whole board. Out goes some counter spells and some draw. For the final game, once again, I am on the draw. I don't mind so much being on the draw. I'm not against an aggro deck, and the 1 extra card can actually be kind of nice. Especially when I have a hand like this. I have some disruption, but no combo pieces. But that's where this deck shows like how good it can actually be. Because between having a Goblin Matron and an Unearth, that means I can search up 2 goblins already. So all I need to do is find a first day of class, play it, and pray my opponent has no disruption. Also, you know, we have a Mock War Marshal. Maybe the beatdown will work again. It's 1-1. The winner takes the prizes. My opponent plays a tablet. I start out with the Goblin Surgeon, the Combo Protector. I love this guy. He makes sure that no removal spells get rid of me. And then she plays a Clan Shaman, which can sweep my board by sacrificing artifacts. Luckily, my Surgeon has 2 toughness, so she needs to sacrifice 2 artifacts to get rid of it. But this is a problem because it means I can't swarm the board. Luckily, I have a Rakdos Canarium for turn 2, so I don't have to play anything into that Clan Shaman. She then plays the second one, and this makes me question what is actually in her hand. And I realize now she also misses a land drop and has no blue mana. So I play my Duress to see what's going on. She wields a Myr Enforcer, 3 Thoughtcast, and a Hydroblast. She can't cast any of those spells. However, if she does draw a blue land, especially an artifact one, she can start drawing cards like mad. I get rid of the Hydroblast because it's the only thing that stops my combo. My thought is, if she draws a blue, she can start drawing a lot of cards. That's 2 extra. Then I play my Makeshift Munitions, setting up my combo, but even better, setting up to get rid of those Clan Shamans. She attacks, I block 1 of them, I go down to 19. I do have to consider now, I still can't really play into those 2 Clan Shamans, because if I play a Mock War Marshal, they can just all die right away, and I have to play some sort of goblin that's both useful and that I don't mind dying. Luckily, I have the perfect goblin for the job. Goblin Matron. She could go find a goblin in my deck and put it in my hand, and if she dies, I can unearth her and gain even more value. I find my Putrid Goblin, and soon I have 2 pieces of my combo ready. Amazing. My opponent needs to draw a blue land if he wants to get into the game and start casting those Thoughtcasts to find stuff that can kill me in some sort of sense. She cuts my deck. She attacks for 2. I block both of them. I want to get rid of these Clan Shamans, and I love trading one of them for a Goblin Matron because I can bring that one back. Then she passes. Still no blue land. I'm safe for another turn. If she gets a blue land, she can't really play anything that's stopping me or is scary. She can just start drawing a lot of cards. Now, I play my Unearth. I want to get my Goblin Matron back. I ask permission first, just in case, and then I get it. I find another Goblin Matron because I'm realizing I can start swarming the board and get a bunch of value. Maybe I can win the same way I did last turn by just having too many goblins. I shoot the other Clan Shaman using the Makeshift Munitions, and then I can play a Mock War Marshal, putting another Goblin onto the battlefield, and suddenly I'm looking pretty good here. Also have a Goblin Slitter, which can sacrifice goblins to buff another creature, meaning even if she gets a blocker, I can suddenly sacrifice my creatures to deal damage anyway. It's also part of a combo piece. If I get a Skirk Prospector, and a Putrid Goblin, and a first day of class, it can pump infinitely. We're once again hoping our opponent draws no blue source. and she doesn't. She has to pass the turn. I forget to sacrifice my Mock War Marshal. I would like to sacrifice that with a village right, but now I can't. That's fine. We don't have to play well sometimes, I guess. That's what I get for missing my triggers. Then I attack for 3. My opponent reminds me you can only attack for 2. That one has Summoning Sickness. And once again, I have made a mistake, and I'm not proud of myself. My opponent's down to 18. I play another Goblin Matron, finding the Dark Dweller Oracle in this situation. Because I'm low on cards, and that one can sacrifice goblins to play cards from the top of my deck. Then I play the Putrid Goblin. With Dark Dweller Oracle next turn, I can start digging to find that first day of class and hopefully win the game. Or just even more goblins to put on the board. My opponent needs a miracle by now to get back into the game. She starts by using a cast down on my Goblin Slitter because it's the goblin that can kill her. I use a goblin to regenerate it. But if she just gets a blue mana now, she can start drawing a bunch and hopefully start playing these Affinity cards that get really cheap fast. And even if I'm swinging for 5, she has a bunch of turns as long as I don't randomly start comboing. So while it looks bad, this is definitely a situation you could... Oh, she didn't get another blue land or a land at all. So it's looking good for me still. I have 5 power on the board, and if she draws a blue land, she still needs a whole turn to just draw cards, which means when I attack here for 5, I'll put her down to... Oh, she uses a Terminate on one of my goblins. That's fine. I'll just regenerate it, use sacrificing a goblin with my Goblin Surgeon. Terminate does say it can't be regenerated, so my goblin just dies anyway, and now suddenly my clock is a lot slower. I put my opponent down to 15. That was a huge mistake on my part. Instead of dealing 4 damage, I got to deal 2. 3. I've never actually seen that interaction before. Something that says you can't regenerate mattering in that way. So that's why I didn't think about it. I then play my Dark Dweller Oracle. With it, I can start sacrificing goblins to play cards from the top of my deck. And the perfect goblin to sacrifice is this Mock War Marshal I play next. Because it will die anyway in my next upkeep, so I can just sacrifice it and then have an extra card next turn. My opponent still doesn't get a land, much less a blue one. She finds this Blood Fountain, which does up her artifact count by 2, so it could be worse. But she still can't play anything. She really needs a blue land soon. Even though I'm not playing great, I'm not trying to make this win happen as soon as possible. I'm sacrificing goblins for no reason. In my upkeep this turn, I do sacrifice the Mock War Marshal to get a card I can play this turn, thanks to my Dark Dweller Oracle. And this is the way I can start creating card advantage. Even if my opponent gets blue now, or had last turn, I wouldn't be behind on card advantage from now on. Especially because she's already played both her Clan Shamans. I don't know if she plays a third one, but that's really good. I don't have to worry about a sweeper of any kind. Unless, of course, she plays Breath Weapon, but I haven't seen it so far, so I'm just betting that she doesn't have it. I keep sacrificing goblins to find more goblins to play from the top of my deck, and because I hit another Mock War Marshal, this Dark Dweller Oracle is generating a whole bunch of card advantage. My opponent decides to try and get rid of the Goblin Surgeon with a Galvanic Blast, but I sacrifice a Goblin to regenerate it, and I remember that it's not a Terminate and I can actually regenerate it. This means that I still have the Surgeon to protect in case I have a combo. All I would need is a first day of class, and then I could go infinite and play my whole library. My opponent sets an end to that plan by playing this Nihil Spellbomb to exile my Putrid Goblin once it hits the graveyard. But she still doesn't get a blue land, not even a third land. And she only has exactly 5 artifacts, so the Myr Enforcers can't even be played right now. She's counting my damage and seeing that this is probably going to end poorly soon. My opponent is unlucky, yes, but she does understand that she kept a hand where like most of the cards couldn't be played unless she top deck a blue land. So this was probably something she prepared for, this eventuality. I think what she didn't prepare for was drawing no lands at all. And that's always something you have to worry about in Magic, sadly. I swing in for 7, putting my opponent down to 2. And now she has to find an answer for this entire board. A Clan Shaman or anything, or just a land or blue mana. So my opponent draws. It's not a land, and she gracefully shakes my hand. It's the end of the video. Okay, I had fun. This deck is fun. Oh, I went to prizes. Next time I can play for free, and the time after that. The goblins did so well. Well done, little goblin. Also, winning is fun. I like winning. Even if some of those wins came because, you know, my opponents were just mana screwed, I take those. I take those every time. I like winning. You know what I like more than winning? Money. This is my Ko-Fi. You don't have to use it, but you do have to like and subscribe and watch my, you know, next video when it comes out. In the meantime, you know, there's a bunch of funny people out there you can go watch, or you can have, you know, a snack. Goodbye.